Well, hello. I'm running late. Excuse me. For those of you that are new here, my name is Terry Thompson. I'm the K County Coordinator for the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association. I'm also I'm in charge of all the counties west of I-35, basically. My plea is, before we get started, if anybody has any friends, family, relatives, whatever, in western Oklahoma, get one of my cards, give them my number, and if they've got a passion in their heart for liberty, we need coordinators in counties in western Oklahoma. I'm doing my best to fill them in, but we got a lot of empty space out there. So I make this plea anytime I'm talking to a group. My cards are on the table back there. You can ask me. You can call me 24/7 if I'm asleep or in a meeting. It'll go to voicemail, and I will return their call. So just think, if you know anybody out there that might be interested, turn them on to my number. First off, we're going to start off with a prayer, and I'm going to ask Dr. Glenn Cope from Tonkawa to do our invocation here.
Would you bow with me, please? Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings that you shower upon us. We pray especially for blessings upon our country. And pray, Father, that you would lead us and guide us into serving our country and doing what's right in your eyes. We pray, Father, that our country would be more in tune with your will and your leadership. We pray, Father, that this organization will always seek to obey you and promote what is good and righteous in your sight. I pray that in your Son's name.
Amen. Amen. And Lieutenant Governor Pinnell has consented to lead us in the pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you. All right. Got a few housekeeping chores to get out of the way, and I'm going to turn the floor over to the Lieutenant Governor, which is why everybody came here today anyway, was to hear him. First off, I want to cover the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association is a liberty group. We concentrate on the Second Amendment because without the Second, the rest of the Constitution has no teeth.
Amen.
Now, this last legislative session, which runs about 12 weeks, Oklahoma Second Amendment Association got 15 bills that we backed signed into law, passed in both houses and signed by the governor, signed into law. Yes. Now, of those 15, 6 of them related directly to firearms. Second Amendment, extending our liberties and our rights under the Second Amendment. 9 of the 15 were liberty bills. And just to mention a few of them, we have a bill prohibiting the teaching of critical race theory in Oklahoma schools. We had 2 bills passed, a House and a Senate bill. The Senate bill was an emergency measure. It went into effect the day the governor signed it, which I believe was April 26. It prohibits calling churches non-essential. In other words, they can't close the churches. And as a footnote there, and several of you have already heard this from me before, we all heard about churches being closed. Has anybody heard about any mosques being closed? So hands. This is over 300 people at various meetings I've asked that question of. I have yet to see a hand. Let's see. We also passed a bill prohibiting schools and universities from requiring masks or vaccine passports. In other words, you got to have a card showing you've been poked to get on the property or in the building. Now, there's a bunch of others. You can go to our website and get a full list. My phone number is on my card. As I said, call me 24/7. If you've got any questions about any of those bills, call me. If I can't answer your question, I can call somebody and get you an answer. This is my mission in my old age. You will never bother me by calling me. If I'm asleep, don't want to be disturbed or in a meeting, it'll go to voicemail and I'll call you back. Okay? I'd like to introduce, Glenn Cope. He's on the sign-up desk back there. He's got membership forms for OK2A, and I ask you, if you're not a member, why not? If not now, when? And if not you, who? And it's important. What gets the politicians' attention is a big constituency. And in fact, I think the only thing that they like better than a lot of voters is a big check, because that'll get them a lot of voters. But so the way to get involved, folks, is to come to meetings. It's easy for you. You don't have to put in the kind of time I'm putting in. All we're asking is come to a meeting once a month, hour to an hour and a half. In fact, in K County, you can come to 2 meetings. Here for Saturday, second Tuesday at Mary's Grill, 6 p.m. in Tonkawa. And in fact, that's my mini meeting. I put it in quotes. We had 46 people at our mini meeting last 2 weeks ago or whatever in Tonkawa. Let's see, Stephen Phipps, which is our audio-visual, kind of do everything guy. I got here about 10 after 11, and he had everything set up. God bless him. So, in fact, let's give Steve a hand. He does a lot for us. Okay. Now, I'm getting ready to turn the floor over. Those you old-timers here know the drill. We're going to do Q&A after the Lieutenant Governor speaks. He's been kind enough to consent to give us some extra time. But the way it works at Q&A at my meetings is you raise your hand. I'll call on you. In the order I see the hands raised. We don't have any talking from the floor unless I've called on you. Folks, we have to keep this focused and organized. So many meetings, and I'm sure everyone in here has been to meetings like that, where it's all out in the weeds and it's disorganized, and you leave and you think, I wasted my time here. The last thing in the world I want people to leave my meeting thinking is that they wasted their time. I want your time here to be productive, informative, and maybe a little entertaining. So when it comes to Q&A, as I said, raise your hand. I'll call on you. If you're able, please stand up. It'll make it easier for everybody to hear. And then, and this is maybe most important, please get right to your question. We don't need 10 minutes of what you saw on CNN while you're asking your question. Folks, all of that preamble, everyone in this room agrees that conservatives are getting screwed in the national media and other places. We don't need to talk about it here. What we want to do here is work towards solutions. Yeah. So, okay, you ready to roll? This is Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell. Let's give him a big hand, folks. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Give this patriot a round of applause. I mean it.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, for what you are doing, as you said, that this is in your old age. You're not old, but for him to dedicate, yes, he is. I heard in the back, and I mean this for patriots like you all sitting in these chairs to give a few hours on your Saturday morning. We all have a lot of things to do on the weekends, of course, and frankly every other day, right? But to rally the troops, you all are the troops. We are officially on the front lines here, not just in Oklahoma, not just in your county, but really in this nation today. For you to take your time to dedicate to preserving what we have that is very special in this state means a lot. So thank you for all of you all being here. And Terry, thank you for the leadership here. We also have your state senator and state rep that are here, and I want to make sure I introduce them because a lot of state reps and state senators don't show up at meetings like this. So Senator Coleman, Representative Luttrell, give them a round of applause. All this legislation that Terry, those legislators are the ones that vote on it. They're the ones that sponsor the legislation, get it passed, signed into law, and move it to the governor's desk. That's how the process works. If you don't have good state reps and state senators that you're sending down the turnpike to that town called Oklahoma City, then we're not going to get the things done that we need to get done and preserve liberty in this state. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Those of you all that don't know me, I'm your 17th Lieutenant Governor, Matt Pinnell. I am just honored to serve in that role. I'm a Tulsa boy. My wife and I have 4 kids. We live in the South Tulsa area. We run a small business in the Tulsa area as well. We're in the baby product manufacturing business. I never thought I would say that 7 years ago. But we manufacture and create baby products. So we make baby hammocks that go into shopping carts. My wife invented this. She taught herself how to sew, and American Dream kind of story. If you all have babies, have grandbabies, you may have seen those little hammocks that clip into shopping carts. That was my wife. She invented that. And so I remember her teaching herself how to sew and making these in our living room, and then we would package them up in our kitchen. And we would send them out. I mean, we was a true small business. And those of you all that run a business, you know what I'm getting at. I mean, the highs and lows of running a business anywhere is tough. But it was a big reason I ran for Lieutenant Governor, to have the backs of our small business owners across the state. Just help you hire. What can we do down at that state capitol to help you hire one more person? 2 more people. What are the dumb things that we're doing down at the state capitol that we should stop doing? To help small business owners in this state, which are the backbone of our economy here in Oklahoma and most every other state. I want big businesses too, but believe me, it's the companies that got 5 employees to 10 employees that are running small companies across our 77 counties that help us make sure that we're running the right kind of state. And so that was a big reason that I got into this position, and have crisscrossed 77 counties ever since, kind of being the sales and marketing director for the state, which I can speak to a little bit. Having somebody that's sitting next to Governor Stitt every day, because we serve together. The governor and lieutenant governor in Oklahoma have a good relationship today. Imagine that a governor and lieutenant governor would actually get along and work together. That is helping us a lot in Oklahoma. Again, getting a lot of good legislation passed. It's a blessing to have a governor that you can work with. But we're working together on a number of things. But that small business piece is something that I focus certainly a whole lot of time on. And I'll answer any of your questions about what we're doing in that space. But freedom is, we've heard it talked about many times, and Terry mentioned it. Freedom is only one generation away from extinction. It is very true. And I want to read you something here that I also think I heard this from a pastor from a constitutional conference that I was at about 1.5 years ago. But it only takes, we know we're 1 generation away from losing our freedoms, but we're about 3 generations from losing ideas. It takes about 3 generations. And the way that he described it, from Genghis Khan to the Apostle Paul to some of our great-grandfathers, hitching horses was the fastest mode of transportation. We've lost that skill in a lot of ways. But we've lost that skill in 3 generations. Liberty and freedom was handed off to us by the greatest generation. Thank God for that greatest generation. That war, really those freedoms. If we didn't have that greatest generation, I don't know where we would be, right, as a country today. And we're in jeopardy of losing that today. In this generation, just think about it. I mean, it's scary, right? What is this generation? These younger generations today, what are we handing off to future Oklahomans? Unsustainable debt, a culture in decline. I mean, this is just as much of a cultural war that we are in today, folks, as it is Republican versus Democrat. I mean, we're in a true cultural war, which I certainly want to speak to. Defunding the police, injustice. But I mean, those are the things that we, unfortunately, generations we're handing over. And we in Oklahoma certainly cannot afford that. And all the legislation that we were able to get passed this session are things that hopefully will help us preserve those freedoms in the state. And certainly one of them is Oklahoma is now a Second Amendment sanctuary state, thanks to the laws that we passed into law this past session. And I want to, every time I pull up the press release, I love reading. I mean, this is a really big deal because of what's going on nationally. For us to say you can do whatever you want, you think you want to do at a national level, you're not coming into Oklahoma. You're not crossing over those invisible lines in our state and telling us that we can't have our right to that Second Amendment. But I want to read just a little bit about what this really entails. This measure states any federal, state, county, or municipal act, law, executive order, administrative order, court order, rule, policy, or regulation ordering the buyback, confiscation, or surrender of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition from law-abiding citizens of this state will also be unlawful as an infringement on the right to keep and bear arms. I could frame that and put that on my wall in my office. I mean, how great is that? But you got to get into the language, folks. I mean, because again, we can talk about, your right to the Second Amendment all day long, but it's bigger than that. We got to make sure that those rules are in place, not just at a state level, but again, from a county perspective as well. Because it starts there, right here in your backyard. And a lot of these laws that Terry also mentioned, again, the anti-liberty movement in this country. Let me just a few things that your association, the Second Amendment Association, has been able to tackle over many, many years. Bill adding public parks and recreation facilities during youth sporting events to the list of SDA prohibited places. Bill prohibiting Oklahoma residents from carrying with an out-of-state carry permit. This is anti-liberty measures that were defeated again, thanks to, again, your Second Amendment Association. Bill allowing the Attorney General and Assistant Attorney Generals to disregard private property rights by giving them the power to carry anywhere in the state, whether on duty or off duty. Bill allowing police chiefs to disregard private property rights by giving them the power to carry anywhere in the state. Red flag laws, nullify the stand your ground law. These are all things. This is the fight. I mean, those anti-liberty bills that are getting passed in many states. That's the type of legislation I believe moving forward in the state that you're going to have to stay in front of. From county to county, across 77 counties, and down at your state capital. I mean, listen, we're a Second Amendment sanctuary state. We, the state, are going to make sure that we keep open carry laws in our state that you're able to carry across 77 counties. But it's these anti-liberty laws that try to chip away at that. Attorneys are pretty good at maneuvering on that. Democrats are pretty slimy is the word that I would use from county. I mean, it's just, hey man, it's just the reality. From county to county and to state. And I would make sure to look into a lot of these Democrat states with Democrat governors and Democrat bodies, state reps and state senators and attorney generals. Thankfully, again, we don't have that here. We have large supermajorities of good conservatives down at our capital. But look what is going on in other states so that we know what's coming. Because they'll try here. I mean, but look into the Delawares and the Connecticut's. Don't go there. Don't go spend your tourism dollars there. But look at what those other states are doing, because that's model legislation for the anti-liberty movement in these other states. And it's starting to seep into some of these, somewhat purple states now, the Virginias of the world that used to be red a couple decades ago. make sure we're doing our homework because they're getting really creative. They're getting really, really creative in other states, and we've got to make sure that's stuff that we need to know about. They're drinking water out of a fire hose down at the state capitol. It's just a revolving door of people coming in wanting something from your state rep and your state senator. So make sure you're taking, hey, here's what they did in Connecticut last year, state senator or state rep, and I need to make sure that this never happens in Oklahoma. Those are the things that I need, again, our Second Amendment Association in Oklahoma, keeping our state reps and our state senators and our governor and lieutenant governor accountable moving forward. It's also certainly, when we talk about liberty and freedom, it's amazing what's going on in Oklahoma today. Some of this was due to COVID. You may have heard of COVID, may have heard about this global pandemic, and I can certainly talk about it if you want to talk about it. I can assure you what Governor Stitt said yesterday, that we are not going to issue a state of emergency in the state of Oklahoma so that 4-year-olds will wear masks at our public schools across the state. The governor's not going to do it, folks. We will not be issuing a state of emergency in the state. I don't foresee that over the next 6 months, a year. But there's a lot of folks, a lot of your, get ready for this again. Okay, your school boards are going to, demand that the governor issue a statewide emergency so they can issue a mask mandate in your public schools in your backyard again. We passed a law that doesn't allow them to do that. So just know that's coming. Mandated vaccines, and again, I can talk about that. But because other states are doing this, I can tell you for a fact that there are more companies around the country and around the world, and this is fascinating, that are calling the state of Oklahoma, calling our Department of Commerce and saying, hey, I see that Oklahoma is open. I see that Oklahoma doesn't have to board up their businesses every other week. In my business, in my state, I'm having to board up my business every other week because of this protest going down Main Street, and I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I want out. And so tell me about the freedom that you got across the state of Oklahoma. I'm not just saying this, folks. This isn't just pie in the sky. It is actually happening. The governor and I have a list. We have a list of companies that the Department of Commerce gives us every single week. And we call companies that we know are unhappy in Wichita, Kansas, or any county down there to that state to the south of us. I forget the name of that state, but it's down there. That's Baja, Oklahoma. Now, there's a lot of freedom lovers down there in that state, okay? And I want to talk about that state a little bit because there's a lot of our friends and family, right, that are down there because they went down there for a job, right, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And a lot of them would love to come back now because the politics are changing down there and it's getting really tight down there. There's 29 million people in that state. We got 4 million in Oklahoma. There's 29 million people down there. So think about that. It is a perfect opportunity to get a lot of those freedom lovers down there that cheer for us on the weekends for football games, right? Let's get them back. So again, we can talk about that later. But I'm telling you, I got a list, and we're calling companies all over the country, all over the world, and telling them about the freedom that we serve up daily in the state of Oklahoma. There's never been a better time to talk about why Oklahoma is the best state to raise a family, to start a business, to live, work, and play. No, I don't want 29 million people in Oklahoma. Please don't get me wrong, okay? But if to go from about 3.9 million people to 4.5 million over the next 10 years before we do this next census again, because we're going to count everybody again 10 years from now. And I think the conversations that we need to be having is how many people do we want 10 years from now? It's a pretty easy way to look at it, right? Okay, we've got we don't have 4 million. We got about 3.95 in the state. If we got to 4.5 million, we would get our congressional seat back that we lost, a decade and a half ago. We got kids growing up in Oklahoma that don't ever remember when we had 6 congressional seats. Well, we did. You get another congressional seat, that's a really big deal for Oklahoma. We got 5, we could get that congressional seat back if we got another 400,000 people over the next 10 years. And I think we can do that. I do. To go from 4 to 4.5, I don't know if we can get 1 million more. That's a whole lot of people coming into the state, but we got room for it in a lot of our counties. And I think we need to be thinking that way. How do we grow this state the right way? And the right way is to continue to pass liberty legislation at our state capitol and to push back against an overreach of the federal government. because there's many states that are allowing the federal government to do whatever they want in their state and to do whatever they want to their citizens in their state, and they are mad, as you know what. And we're talking to and these are CEOs of the companies that we're talking to. I mean, they use some very colorful language on the telephones with us. And it's happening. Now, again, listen, don't California my Oklahoma, okay? Don't California my Oklahoma. Don't get me wrong, okay? We want to make sure that we're filling this state up with the right people. But I will tell you, legal Americans, which we can certainly talk about as well. There's 188,000 people. Since she said it, I'll say it. There was 188,000 people that crossed the border last month into Texas. 188,000 people. We don't know who they are. We have no idea. Over 1 million for the year, but over 108. That was a record for a summer month. 188,000 people crossing that invisible line into Texas. You don't think if they're in Oklahoma right now? You better believe they are. We don't know who they are or what they're up to. Arguably the biggest issue in our country today. If you don't have secure borders, you don't have a country, right? So the governor and I are having a lot of conversations about that with Governor Abbott. He's sending National Guard down there, and Texas has said if the federal government won't finish this wall, we will in our state. And that's something certainly that you're going to hear a whole lot more about in the coming months. But we should take this opportunity that we're in, with all these companies that are, told all of their employees they can live anywhere in the world that they want because they're able to, work remotely now. Why not Oklahoma? Why not Oklahoma? If we fill it up the right way. Now, again, priority number one for me is those of you all in this room right here that own a business and help you hire one more person. I want Oklahomans first when it comes to, I want to make sure we're focused on Oklahoma companies first. 75 to 80% of the companies that our Department of Commerce is helping every day are Oklahoma companies. It's 10% maybe that we're talking about companies relocating. So if you have a business in Oklahoma and you don't like what we're doing at a state level, we need to know about it. They need to know about it because it's Oklahomans first. You've chosen to raise your families here. Start a business here. How do we help you? How do we help you? And I can tell you too, from a Second Amendment perspective, we are talking to a whole lot of firearms manufacturers in this country today. Which we're really excited about. That announcement that NRA was moving to Texas, that may happen. It may not happen. Okay. We're rolling. Why not Oklahoma? We're rolling out the red carpet there too. We just stole a company from Texas, up in the Mid-America Industrial Complex up there in Pryor. And we plan on stealing a whole lot more companies from Texas. But NRA, listen, I think Oklahoma's a far better place for NRA headquarters than Texas today. And the firearm manufacturers in this country, which, by the way, there's going to be a whole lot more of them over the next few years. We're going to be making a whole lot more firearms, a whole lot more bullets. One of the largest is in New Jersey that wants out. They want out of there. And so we've had conversations with them. So I want you to know those things are happening for sure. Talking to a whole lot of auto manufacturing companies as well, not just on the electric side. But because of this movement into southern states where a lot of these cars are being built now, we have the opportunity to get a lot of the parts manufacturers here. That's a big win for us as a state to really kind of refill the state of Oklahoma with manufacturing companies. But if we do that, and this is something I was talking about right down here, this is also, I believe, should be part of the liberty movement. We should be talking about trade schools just as much as we talk about college. Because what is happening in this country today, we took shop class out of high schools decades and decades ago. And we have woken up now, 20 years later, guess what? We do not have kids in the workforce that have the skills that employers need. They don't know how to change a tire. They don't know how to read a ruler, for goodness sakes. Well, what did you think was going to happen when we pulled shop class out of high schools? We pulled the Bible out of high schools too, right? Wall builders will tell you all about that. But when you pull shop class out as well, we're not training kids the way that they should be trained. And we've demonized kids that go vocational routes in this country. And thankfully, I mean, I have good news on this. Thankfully, there's a national movement now. Mike Rowe, we all love, Mike Rowe for president. If Trump doesn't run, Mike Rowe for president or vice president, give him some national job, in my opinion, because he started this revolution. Dirty jobs guy, Mike Rowe, right? But he has a national foundation. He's raising millions and millions of dollars and giving grants to school districts across the state to help start shop classes again. So you got this national movement now, and you got schools now that have finally woken up to the fact that they need to be bringing shop class back. I've been to 5 or 6. I'm sure our state rep and state senator as well, probably schools here locally. I was in Sand Springs just a few months ago that put a shop class back in, and by the way, it's full. But we've got to have this conversation in Oklahoma, and here's why. Here's why we can leapfrog a whole lot of states. Because our career tech system in Oklahoma is one of the best career tech systems in the country already. It's already top 10. I mean, Governor Stitt wants to be top 10. Guess what? We're already top 10 with our career tech system. Any site relocation rep has told me this. So this is not just me saying this. Us in Georgia arguably have the best career tech system in the country. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's double down on it. Let's make sure that they're doing it the right way. I mean, we have career techs all across the state, locally funded, by the way. So, it doesn't really depend upon the state legislature. You see these really nice facilities that they have. Unfortunately, again, that's the good news, is that we got all this infrastructure. The bad news is they tell me they can't fill up a plumbing class. They can't fill up a carpentry class. They can't fill it up. And so I'm having a whole lot of conversations with our career tech system right now is, hey, we got to go directly to middle school kids. We got to go directly to high school kids and tell them, hey, you see that house on the end of the street with a brand new boat in the driveway? That's not someone with an MBA that graduated with some degree of college. That is your local that's your plumber in town. That's your HVAC guy in town, right? I mean, it is a career. It is a great career and lifestyle with a very big check connected to it. I talked to career tech superintendents all over this state that said a lot of the kids that are coming in here have college degrees that can't find a job, and so they're coming back for a skill in a career tech facility. And you can get a certificate within a year or two and go get a great job. So I'm preaching this all over the state. And I do think, again, that's part of a liberty movement. When we're talking about, hey, we're a free state, but we have the skills in our workforce, and you can come to Oklahoma and get a skill, because it's one of the best recruitment tools we have is our career tech system. If some kid is in another state and that state does not value a vocational route, let's move them into Oklahoma. We've never pitched that. We've never spent money talking to kids in other states why they should be in Oklahoma. I love that, actually. And in our high schools now working in conjunction with our career tech system is a really big deal. We're doing it. We need to keep doing it even more, and we need to make sure that we prioritize it from a funding perspective in the state of Oklahoma. I think that's something, again, over the next 10 years, if we're going to grow the state, if we're going to gain Oklahomans, not lose Oklahomans, then I think our career tech system has to be right in the middle of it. We don't need more taxes. We need more taxpayers because, there's a lot of stress on you as taxpayers. Because we don't have that many people in the state. Again, I don't want 29 million. But if you start adding a few more 100,000, again, that's less stress on us as taxpayers. We don't need more taxes. But I would take a few more taxpayers in Noble County and Kay County and every other county across the state, particularly, though, in rural Oklahoma. Tulsa and Oklahoma City are going to get theirs. There are 75 other counties in the state of Oklahoma that we need to help. And I think as Lieutenant Governor and as a state rep and state senator, that's really where we can make a really big difference. I want to make sure that we're having those conversations. Here's another point that I want to make to you that goes directly to the cultural fight that we have in this country. And I mentioned this at another 2A group that I met at, because this is something that, as the 2A Association in Oklahoma, has to be thinking this way. Politics is downstream from culture. Politics is downstream from culture. What is happening in politics today is because the culture has changed in this country. I mean, you get any high school kid today to poll about, again, socialism versus capitalism, and do you support socialism or capitalism? It's scary. It is scary today to see what kids in this country think about capitalism that built this country. It's scary, folks. And it's because they're getting all of their information on this thing, okay? And they're getting it from the TikTok and all these other social media, whatever it is. I got a 15-year-old daughter, right? So I see it through her eyes. Jesus, take the wheel. I got a 15-year-old daughter, right? I'm seeing it through her eyes. And it has been a wake-up call for me. To see what, and again, my kids are in public schools, but thankfully they got a mom and a dad that sit around in a dinner table every night talking to my kids about what did you learn today, so let me tell you what was right and what was wrong with what they said, okay? We got to be doing that too. But we got 700,000 kids in our public school system today, and a lot of them are not going home to mom or a dad, or a grandma or a grandpa. They're going home to an empty house, and they're not getting dinner, okay? And we have to realize that. And we've got to figure out a way to fix it. And that means getting involved right in the middle of this cultural fight. So when I go speak to an oil and gas association, I got a bunch of oil and gas executives. I said, listen, you're giving too much money to politicians. And I know sometimes that's not popular to say. But I think it's true. I think take 50% of the money that you're giving to politicians and create movies with it. Because you're being portrayed, oil and gas executives and our 2A movement in this country is being portrayed in television shows and movies. You know it and I know it, right? In completely false narrative that is out there. And so to Terry's point of what is the solution to that? We need more podcasts talking about why we should support the Second Amendment. We should be teaching kids about the United States Constitution. If they're not going to get it from their high school, how does it pop up on their cell phone? Prager University does a really good job of this. If you follow Prager, wall builders, thank God for David Barton. David Barton's been doing this for decades, right? But we need more David Bartons. We need more Turning Point USAs. Okay, Turning Point USA, I met the kid when he was going around and trying to get money for that organization. Charlie, I remember Charlie Kirk, 15 years ago. He looks young now. Just think about when he was doing this 15 years ago. And now, yes, he's got a whole team. He realized we have to be on college campuses. So college campuses are being overrun. And you have kids, and this is how bad it is today. You have kids that are scared, rightfully, unfortunately, because they think if they stand up or if they go to their college Republican meeting that the teacher's going to give them an F. That's happening across our college campuses, both private and public, Christian or not Christian. Okay, I went to Oral Roberts University. You don't think it's happening there? It is. It's happening everywhere. It's not just our public universities. So we have to get into this cultural fight. And I don't know what it means specifically for our 2A organizations, but I think it is educating middle school, high school kids about 2A, about the Second Amendment, and about the United States Constitution. Because unfortunately, they're not getting it in their schools today. They may not be getting it at home either. And so creating some sort of platform socially where it's popping up on their phone, we got to have that conversation. And the Oklahoma Republican Party needs to be having that conversation as well. John Bennett is. He gets it. He gets it. But a lot of this does need to be driven by the Oklahoma Republican Party apparatus, because they have a college Republican organization, right? They have a young Republican organization. And when I was your state chairman, I was the Oklahoma Republican Party chairman back in the day, a very, very long time ago. We did this. We rebuilt the college Republican and the young Republican apparatus because I knew how important it was to go directly to the next generations. Because when I was state chairman, it was still a registered Democrat state. This was, 2012. It wasn't that long ago. And think about that. We think we've been a Republican-controlled state forever. We have not, folks. Democrats controlled this state for 100 years. 100 years. Republicans only got it in 2010, 2011 timeframe. But what are we going to do with it? I mean, what are we going to do with, again, this power that we were given, this authority that we were given? If we continue to pass, again, liberty bills like we did last session, then we're on to something as a state. And what I mean by that, if we're on to something, that means you all, again, Oklahomans will feel like this is a state that is listening to them, and you'll want to stay here. And other people in other states will say, I want to live there. And then we can be a top 10 state. So if you have organizations, and again, I love that we got Noble and K County here. Some of you all may be from other counties as well. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that we have chapters in all 77 counties. I mean, I think it's absolutely doable because we probably have close to 50 today already. I will always be a friend of the grassroots conservative movement in this state, and that you are part of it. I was in Mays County, the 2A Mays County meeting about a month and a half ago, and the Mays County GOP now they've joined forces. So again, those are some things that again you all should be inviting the Noble and K County GOPs to these meetings. Do events together. Make sure that you're in the community doing a burger cookout or whatever it is to make sure that people know these are friendly groups. We're about liberty. We want to be open to everybody to grow this organization. Those are things that, again, I did as state chair, and they were very effective. So moving forward, I would make sure that you've got a few things. Here's the calendar of events that we're going to be involved in. We're going to do this. But how are we reaching out to middle schools in this community? How are we reaching out to high schools in this community? And how are we reaching out to the community at large? To tell them about really the founding pinning of this country, what it was about, and how we're going to save it. How we're going to save it. It starts with rooms just like this. So God bless you all. God bless this state. I thank God every day that I'm an American. But I assure you, I thank God every day that I was born in the state of Oklahoma. So thank you all very much. Thank you all. Questions?
Yeah. Now it's my turn. You're first. And stand up if you could and speak up.
There's no you jumping the big.
That's the important one.
The governor appointed a new attorney general yesterday, and I don't even know if it was above the fold headline in the papers because the OU in Texas leaving the Big 12, I think it took all of the attention yesterday. I think yes. I think they are. And if you're an OSU fan, I don't know if you saw the president at OSU, her response to she wasn't happy. It was a little spicy as far as being a little blindsided by OU. So
who's our new attorney general?
John O'Connor. So John O'Connor, and listen, he will have your back. I'm glad you. Gosh, I should have had that in my comments. Listen, if you don't have a conservative AG in your state, you're in a bad spot. Thankfully, in Oklahoma, we do. Yeah. Listen, Mike Hunter was, but John O'Connor is as well. And so he's out of the Tulsa area. Hall Estill, been a partner at Hall Estill for 30 or 40 years. But he will have our back. He will have his association's back. And I think someone certainly that you all should try to go see, certainly when session starts, as you all start getting around the state capitol. Send an email to him. Make sure that there's always an open invitation for him to come to these meetings as well. But he'll be a good one for us. He's just filling out the remainder of Mike's term. But he is running for the office. Okay, so he will be on the ballot, which means he should come to these meetings.
Exactly.
He should do it even if he wasn't. But he is a candidate for re-election. I'm running for re-election as well. Probably should have mentioned that as well. But he will be on the ballot, and he's never run for office before. So we need to make sure we get him here when he's in
Folks,
when he's in K
people
County.
Like Lieutenant Governor and Bill Coleman and Ken Luttrell here that were able to get these bills through. John Pfeiffer as well. In fact, John Pfeiffer, we give a report card every year. This year he went from an A last year to an A+.
Okay, good.
And he would have been here, but he had a prior commitment.
Good. He's a good man.
Yes, sir.
Not sure how to phrase it, but I know one of the problems that we have is making states in purpose of a lot of infiltration.
Yes.
Small state with a small.
It is it's already happening in Oklahoma City. It's already happened in Oklahoma City. Listen, that's tough. It's what's happening in Arizona. That migration out of California into Arizona has changed Arizona. It's certainly happened in Colorado. There's a great book. I'll send you the title of the book. That it was how Colorado turned blue. I mean, it was an organized effort by the Democrat Party to turn Colorado blue. I'll get you the title of the book because it's fascinating. And it's a lot of things in there that we've got to make sure doesn't happen in Oklahoma. There's no easy answer to that. I would say much more than pulling new companies in, which again is naturally going to happen because people want out. And hopefully that means they're coming in with the kind of politics that we want. But the priority must be growing Oklahoma businesses first, because we can fill this place up pretty quick too if we just help current Oklahoma companies.
What happened in Georgia, where several?
That'll be the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a guy over here. I'll call on you again.
I'll answer that.
Yeah, Alan. So, by the way, folks, this is our new Noble County coordinator.
All right.
Yeah. I only got to call it K-Noble for about a week or two because Alan stepped up. Anyway, your question, Alan.
So, to a point that you made about the cultural war, is there an effort by our representatives and senators to put civics back into the curriculum?
Yes. And I'll give Janet Barisi some credit on that. Back in the day, and again, I won't get into that superintendent race, but Janet actually did a pretty darn good job for us as superintendent of public education. Then she got beat. But she worked directly with David Barton on curriculum. That's really what his main mission is, to work with states to get civics back into high schools, and has done a fabulous job of it. It's why Texas teaches this in Texas. So yes, but here's another big race next year. Arguably the biggest race that will be on the ballot. Attorney General is one too, but I just don't know if a Democrat's going to be competitive at running as AG. But there will be an open primary for your superintendent of public education because Joy Hoffmeister is term limited. So that is a question that you need to ask every one of these candidates that is running for superintendent. What is your not just your priority, but what's your plan to make sure civics is taught in our K through 12 education system?
A good way to do that, folks, is to go to your school board meetings.
Yes.
I've started attending my school board in Tonkawa.
Yeah.
I don't have any kids or grandkids. I just want to get the lay of the land and see what's going on. A new member there told me they hadn't even discussed CRT.
No. Well, and again, we can not that we want to bypass local school boards, but your state school board, your superintendent of public education can go to that state school board and say, this is what we're going to do with the curriculum. And fast track that. If we have to go through every school board, it's tough. But that's why that superintendent of public education race is so important. Yeah. And Georgia, right? So, yeah.
Where the voters were
yes.
across within a short time period voting, and then leaving.
Right. Yeah, that gives me a good segue into talking about voter integrity in this country as well, because what happened in November of last year can never happen again. It can never happen again. And again, I was state party chairman. I went on to be the national state party director at the RNC. So I've been in every state in the country. This is before I ran for lieutenant governor. I've been in every state in the country. I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, I was in Colorado when we took back the Senate majority in 2014. I've seen it. And it's why 10, 12 years ago, we started passing legislation in Oklahoma. We fixed our absentee ballot program in Oklahoma about a decade ago. Because in Oklahoma a decade ago, you could mail over 200 absentee ballots to one address. Oh, yes. That was happening in Oklahoma, in a lot of rural parts of the state. Adair County was who helped us fix this, by the way. A guy named Russell.
To the notary public.
That's right. And so a lot of our county chairs, we've been talking about this but the man's name was Russell Turner that helped us fix this. And we have a great election board secretary in Oklahoma. But again, we're blessed in that way. He's been there for like 25 years, and he's helped us pass a lot of voter integrity legislation in Oklahoma. They don't have it in Georgia. and they certainly don't have it in the Atlanta area. I mean, that is where a lot of change has to happen. Now, again, that's because Georgia passed a good voter integrity law that a lot of people, again, are throwing mud at for all the wrong reasons. But thankfully, the U.S. Supreme Court said no ballot harvesting can happen in this country. That is huge, folks. That is a really big deal to making sure we have fair elections across this country. But we've got to address this electronic voting system. Arizona said they're not going to use the Dominion voting machines. Well, thank God they said it. Now, again, they didn't accept blame for what happened in Arizona when they started putting up cardboard around and you couldn't even watch people count the votes, right? But at least they're not going to use the Dominion voting machines moving forward. I have said this to GOP groups across the country, as far as going directly to his point of solutions. The Republican National Committee, love them or hate them, the Republican National Committee has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that they will be spending on voter integrity over the next 4 years leading up to this presidential election. We have to hold them accountable. John Bennett at the Oklahoma Republican Party is not going to have millions of dollars to put behind voter integrity. Because of that, we'll have poll watchers, of course. We'll have an organized volunteer operation, but we have got to have the RNC put hundreds of attorneys and hundreds of poll watchers in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, to make sure that folks in those states feel comfortable standing in line for an hour, knowing that their vote's going to matter, is going to be counted. The only organization legally that can really do that is the RNC. And Steve Curry, who is your national committee man here in Oklahoma, he's on the ballot integrity committee at the RNC. And he'd be, again, a good person to, ask him, what are you doing? Because they go to these RNC meetings, they talk about where they're spending these hundreds of millions of dollars. I know you all get called by the RNC. Can I get $25 donation? You should be asking them, I want this money to be going to voter integrity, not some U.S. Senate candidate in some state that I don't know about. We have to be that blunt over the next 2 years. We just do, for us to preserve this country. It really is, that's not hyperbole. If the people in this country, if the Americans, legal Americans in this country, feel like we don't have a fair election system, that's when democracies crumble. That's what happens in Cuba, not America. So, not to get you got me on my soapbox on that. I'm passionate.
What can be done about our Oklahoma Health Department pushing experimental, dangerous, ineffective drugs? We get this thing in the mail that says, oh, you can have your vaccine and it's safe and effective. Right. Signed by the Oklahoma Health Department.
Yeah.
And it's not any of
Yeah. Yeah. So that, as far as vaccine, now, we, and I say we, so the state of Oklahoma, what we, and the governor and I had a lot of conversations about this. There's thousands and thousands of state employees, and we said, the state of Oklahoma we are not going to allow state buildings, state employees we will not have mandated vaccines in state buildings. That's kind of what we control. But when it comes to private businesses, we're getting a whole lot of phone calls from healthcare workers that work inside of hospitals that some hospitals are going to mandate that their employees get vaccinated. We know a whole lot of hospitals are not going to mandate it now as well. But yeah, when it comes to the Department of Health, I think you will continue to see a Department of Health, put out where they can go get vaccinated. I don't see that really changing. The governor has said, if you want to get vaccinated, you can get vaccinated. That's kind of been his line. He got vaccinated on national television. It's a choice. It's a choice. When it doesn't become a choice, and again, I'm going to watch the language that the Department of Health uses, though. To your point of you're getting something in the mail, right? I'm very sensitive because it's a state agency. We can tell them We can approve what kind of what kind of language they're using. Because the governor in Alabama just yesterday, I couldn't believe she said this, Republican governor in Alabama said, we got to start blaming the unvaccinated people in this state. Yes. You see that? So, caught her on a bad day or a hot mic somewhere. I don't know, but we're not going to say that. But that is a very good point. The Department of Health is a state agency, and we do approve the language of what kind of language they're saying. And I am comfortable with, okay, if you want to have a pod out there, or if they're coming to K County, here's a place you can go get vaccinated if you want to go get vaccinated. It's a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice. And it will continue to be a choice inside of state government. When it gets to the private businesses, that's when attorneys get involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am not totally conversant on this, but the recent executive order, the 3030 executive order
Okay.
that he issued, is that by the year 2030, the government will control 30% of the landmass in the United States. That was an executive order signed, I believe.
By Biden?
Yeah, that idiot.
Yeah.
That gets a hand.
That's not fake news. That's not fake news.
Last week. Is the state doing anything to look into protecting landowners?
Yeah.
So there isn't a land grab?
Yeah, no, that is a really great question. I know we're suing the federal government on them coming in on mining. And the short answer would be absolutely yes. I mean, if we need to sue or pass an executive order here that pushes back on the federal government when it comes to landmass, we will do it. Yes. When Biden put that executive order in, not allowing drilling on public land, it shut down the New Mexico economy, because a lot of the oil and gas drilling in New Mexico is on public land. And it frankly benefited Oklahoma a little bit, because you had a lot of oil and gas companies drilling here instead. No, I don't want that kind of bit. I don't want to have to get business because of something, doofus is sitting inside the White House right now, mandates. And listen, folks, we're going to take back the House in 2 years. Nancy Pelosi is not going to be the Speaker of the House in a year and a half. She's not. But we got some Senate races. I mean, to take the Senate, it's more difficult, okay? And so I'm not saying don't get involved in some of these targeted U.S. Senate races around the country, because I'd love to be able to get the Senate too. Yeah.
I just want to follow up on the health department thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any control over what they put out?
We do. I mean, I don't think, yeah.
I'm not for it either.
Right.
But I think it would be nice if you're going to put out stuff and send it in the mail, that they are truthful. If there's a way to actually show them statistically, here's, because we don't get the.
It's a great point.
We don't get the real statistics from mainstream news or anything like that. So
and alternative.
That way the person that gets it can make a better informed decision for themselves.
That is very reasonable. That is very reasonable. And I get asked, why can't we talk about the alternative remedies as well? You can get vaccinated, okay? And talk about what that vaccination is. But there also has been a lot of alternative remedies that a lot of people have used over the last 2 years when it comes to this. We do the same thing with flu. I mean, think about that. I mean, you got a flu vaccine, but there's a lot of things that medical doctors talk about that you can use and take, alternative remedies when it comes to flu season, and that's FDA approved, by the way. A flu vaccine. We don't have that yet. To your point, I mean, and again, yes, I'm thankful for rapid speed of what Trump put into place to get that vaccine done. And again, that was Trump that did that, not Biden. But I get it, and that's something that I can absolutely have a conversation with the Department of Health about. Because it is a state agency. It is state agency, and it's something that our state reps and state senators can probably have conversations with them about as well. Yeah.
Another question?
Yeah.
I've got one more.
Well,
Sure. And then I want to address.
Back to Mr. Volker, and then we'll come back to Jay.
And if it's
Yeah.
not asked, I want to finish on. I guess I don't know if I should finish on marijuana, but I do want to. I do want to bring. I want to talk about the medical marijuana issue. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Is there someone in the health department, state health department, who's responsible for looking at the research, the papers have been done, and coming up with a recommendation instead of following the we do? Right? And looking at all of the various data, and is that available? So, yeah, not that discouraging.
Yeah.
Use of this quote vaccine.
Yeah.
And encouraging some of the things that are proven to be safe and
Yeah. So I hope that answer is yes, because we have like 1,000 employees at the Department of Health. So I hope someone over there is doing exactly what, I mean, we have, so Lance Fry, Colonel Lance Fry is in our Department of Health, kind of leads that agency right now. But we have, yes, scientists and researchers inside the Department of Health. I will ask. Yeah.
Wait. Jay, you're next with your second question.
I know there's a lot of legal issue around this.
Yeah.
But with the huge influx of illegals
Yep.
into the United States, we know there's a huge influx into Oklahoma. Is there anything legally we can do to return to the local police authority to stop people and ask for a green card
Yeah.
or a visa?
Yep.
Is there anything moving ahead in that area?
Yes. So there very well could be legislation, state legislation that addresses that. But here's something also that is extremely important directly to that point: is our ICE offices. You know, when you have the federal government that wants to defund those ICE offices, I mean, that ICE office in the Tulsa area that we have had for the last 15 or 20 years has been a lifesaver, truly a lifesaver, has saved lives because we've had that ICE office there that has specifically addressed this issue. That was something that John Sullivan, remember that name? I mean, Congressman John Sullivan back in the day got funding for that ICE office in Tulsa. And now, again, you have a Biden administration that wants to defund these ICE offices across the country. Our local law enforcement is already extremely overwhelmed. And one of the reasons is, again, a lot of this marijuana industry that we now have in the state of Oklahoma as well. But maybe I'll address that, and then I'll take one last question so we don't end on medical marijuana. There is, again, we have over 10,000, think about this, we have over 10,000 licenses in the state of Oklahoma. Medical marijuana is legal, okay? You can get a medical marijuana card. The people inside the state of Oklahoma voted that. That was a state question. That was not something we did at a legislative level. So it is in our state constitution, okay? If you want to get a medical marijuana card and smoke marijuana for an ailment that you have, it is legal in the state of Oklahoma, and there's nothing we can do about it unless it's put back on a ballot. But one of the things that was in that state question is we didn't really limit the amount of licenses that could happen in the state of Oklahoma. So in Arkansas, there's less than 100. Missouri, less than 100. Okay, they have medical marijuana industries there too. But think about that. We have over 10,000 in the state. And we have a lot of rural counties, right? Tulsa and Oklahoma City, they have no idea what's going on. I drive around in 77 counties a lot. I see it. I've seen it with my own eyes. You know, the black screens around these grow facilities. And yes, illegals that are working these fields. We started getting phone calls. I'm sure the state rep and state senator down here have gotten, weekly. Hey, we had Chinese came in here and is buying up all this land. And I started getting these phone calls a year and a half ago. I said, well, that's got to be fake news. What are you talking about? I've seen it with my own eyes. And it has overwhelmed our law enforcement. Our electric co-ops were the ones that started, telling us about it, because they started seeing the electricity rates just off the charts. They said, we would get these phone calls and they would say, we don't know what's going on in K County right here, but we can see it, and we think we know what's going on though. And so you're starting to see some above the fold headlines of national law enforcement going in there and shutting down a lot of grow facilities that are growing more than is legally they're legally able to grow. And there's a black market for this. And so this is something that legislatively we may need to address. There's a couple bills last year that I don't believe were passed. So more to come on that. But if you think your local sheriff is going to be able to keep up with what's going on in Noble County or Kay County with everything else that they have to deal with, it's unfair. It really is unfair. So we're working with DAs, we're working with sheriffs on this issue. But I just mention it because it comes up in every county that I go to. And yes, we're generating a whole lot of tax revenue off of it. Okay, any mayor will tell you that. But what are the adverse effects that we're creating here? And I think in a few years, there will be a state question. Just get ready for it, because they will collect the signatures for it that asks if Oklahomans want to legalize marijuana, just recreational marijuana. Virginia, the first southern state in the country, just did this. So it just happened in Virginia. Most every other state's medical. But we hear a lot of negative stories from business owners in Colorado of what happened in Colorado. And so it's going to be a big conversation over the next 5 to 6 years inside the state of Oklahoma. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Joe.
Yeah.
Char?
Yes, I was just gonna say, you made a comment about Chinese coming and buying all these plots of land and things like that. We can't go to China and buy land. Why are we allowing it here? And I know that it's probably under another name.
Bingo.
And that sort of thing. But there's got to be a way that we can stop that from happening.
Correct. There has to be. And if
it's like Bill Gates what's he doing with all this farmland? That's right.
So there has to be. Well, I can tell you what, he thinks he's going to make beef in a petri dish versus raising it on a prairie. Again, that's another soapbox that I could get on. I'm the MC at the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association dinner tonight in Norman, and that will be a line that I will be using. Yes. So the short answer is yes. They've gotten very good. This is a national. There's a whole lot of black market money behind this. They're very good at this. And the second we put guardrails in place in Oklahoma, they will leave those fields. They will leave them, and it'll just be a bunch of trash. They'll leave those fields and they'll go to another state where they can make more money. That's what's going to happen. And they will leave a big mess behind them because it's kind of the wild, wild west right here in Oklahoma. That's why they're here. And the second we put some guardrails up, they're out of here. They'll probably be in Kansas.
Let us know so we can say goodbye.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I was just curious if the federal authorities shut down the roads, do they acquire the property? Does that become federal property?
No, it wouldn't be. It would be returned to the county. Yeah, be returned. But I'll make sure of it. But yeah, it doesn't become federal property. Yeah.
One more question. I'm going to pull rank.
Sure.
I've got actually 2 questions.
Yeah.
It's my understanding as president of the Senate, you can take the gavel at any time and move bills forward and so forth. Oh, okay.
Well, I can't call a special session unless the governor's out of town. So I have the shirt that says it. I said I'm governor, and then in parentheses when he's out of town, because that's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stories in Oklahoma. Like the governor will say, if he's in an airplane, he'll say exactly when he crosses that invisible line, so the lieutenant governor can't do something silly. So I can't call a special session. Only the governor or the state legislature can do that.
And if it's in session, you can take the gavel?
Yeah, Mary Fallon did that once. Yeah.
That being the case, would you ever be willing to take the gavel and move bills forward that the leadership is stopping? And we've got quite a pile of bills left from this year that are going to be on top next year.
Yeah.
And is that something that you would be willing to do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've said that before. When Mary did it, it wasn't again, what will happen is people leave again, I'm getting in the weeds here, but what happened to her is this was on the workers' comp bill. She took the gavel, but people left the chambers, and so they couldn't pass legislation. She took the gavel, but ultimately, because we didn't have the majorities in the State House and the State Senate, we do now, and so, yeah, you might be able to move a few more things. So, yeah.
Joe, you've been waiting.
Okay. This kind of touches on what you mentioned earlier about seeing things happening elsewhere coming here.
Yeah.
As the lieutenant governor, is there anything that you guys can do to kind of stop Biden's goon squad
Yep.
coming door to door.
Oh, yeah, on the back.
Offering vaccines, other than us.
I'm going to take care of that at my own front
Other
door.
than us exercising
Correct. So,
escorting them.
good question. I mean, it was just horribly communicated by, I mean, again, I really question his mindset. Again, that whole other issue, but that is not going to be successful anywhere. I don't know. I mean, again, going door to door, most neighborhoods have no solicitation signs now.
You're being told to ignore them.
Well, if they are, again, then they're breaking just a basic homeowners association policy. You can literally run them off the street. City ordinance, I mean, it gets down to that level of to cities. And so could mayors address something like this? Maybe, yeah.
If I can do it at my size, you can easily do it at your front door.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know you're not worried about, right. I know you're not worried about it, but it's probably, again, those are things that when we get into session in January, those are things that I know we will be getting asked about. We want to make sure that we keep government small and in its smallest form, and so that could be something that whoever said city ordinance very well could. But it's why neighborhood to neighborhood you have no solicitation signs going up, and you can, again, that's what we do in our neighborhood. We run them out. We start seeing people coming around soliciting. They get run out of the neighborhoods. That's when homeowners associations have to pop up. Right. But that's government overreach. You're right. If it's a federally run program,
Right.
and I think that's the key to it. If what he is going to try to do is a federally run program going into neighborhoods, no, we will absolutely push back on that. Yeah.
Folks, we've taken well over an hour of the Lieutenant Governor's time, and I know he's a busy man. So that'll be it for the questions this time, but I hope to have you back.
I'll be back.
More questions
Absolutely.
another time.
Yeah. Love serving. Look forward to keep doing
Let's
it.
give him a
Thank
standing
y'all.
ovation. Come on. Stand up.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, a few more things I want to cover. You know me, I'm the guy who never stops talking. I neglected to mention earlier, the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association is joining the Gun Owners of America, and we are involved with them in a suit about pistol braces. So we're taking action on a national level. Usually we concentrate on Oklahoma, but we're getting involved in this case, and we're going to be helping to finance that. Let's see. Pastor Jack left again. Okay. I wanted to introduce him, but everybody knows who he is anyway. Also, Amanda, stand up for a minute. Folks, this is Amanda Suprovo. She is the Special Projects Director for the Kay County Republican Party, and she is in charge of putting together the Kay County Young Conservatives. We looked into give her a hand. She's working hard, folks. We looked into getting a Young Republicans chapter here, and it's so bureaucratic, we didn't want to get involved. So we're doing it just on a local level, and we are concentrating on the first wave of recruits with home schoolers.
We're not going to stop there.
No. That's just where we're starting, because we figure that's going to be the low-hanging fruit. So, they're more likely to be Christian, they're more likely to be conservatives, and their parents are going to be more likely to encourage this activity. Anyway, she's a lady to talk to if you know any young people that might be interested, or you can contact me and I can put you in touch with her. Let's see. Our next meeting here, we have Jackson Lawmeyer. How many in here know who Jackson Lawmeyer is? Yeah. Hey, all right. Some of you saw him the night before last at the Kay County GOP meeting, fourth Thursday of every month. It's Pioneer Tech at 7 p.m. You need to get involved there too, folks. He is challenging Senator James Lankford, and that's spelled with a K, folks. I see it spelled with a G all the time. And he will be running against him in the primary. He is a dynamic speaker, and he's entertaining. He's a pastor out of Tulsa. The Tulsa government tried to shut him down when he was holding church services, preaching from the roof, and he went eyeball to eyeball with them, and they backed off. So please tell your friends. Bring them to the next meeting. My card's on the back table. If you don't have my card, you're one of the minority in K County. Get some on the way out. Pass them around. The back of every one of my cards tells you where and when to come for our 2 meetings for OK2A here in K County. Let's see here. Let me check my list. Bill, would you or you or Ken want to say a few words?
I'm good.
You good? Okay.
Put that down as a gold star.
Yeah.
Even Bill, shut up.
I really appreciate y'all coming and showing your support. It's really important. Let's give them a hand, folks. Great. Yes, Glenn.
Membership, if you're not with OK2A, we have membership forms. If you haven't signed in today,
Please do. He can also sign you up for the Ponca City Rifle and Pistol Club, which is the best deal in the nation. It's $80 a year, and they've got a great range out there. We've got 4 pistol bays, 225 and 235. We've got an archery bay. We've got a thrower if you want to shoot shotguns. We've got a 50, 100, 200, and 300-yard range. And they're putting a road in for us old decrepit folks at the 100-yard range, so you'll be able to drive down and put your targets up rather than walk. And we do have that on the 200 and 300-yard range. Folks, it's real important. I'm sure everybody in this room realizes at the critical point this country is right now, folks, we are at the edge of an abyss. It's an abyss full of homosexuality, transgenderism, atheism, destroying. These people, I hear this all the time, they're crazy. No, they're not crazy, folks. They're evil. Everything they do makes perfect sense if you understand their goals: to destroy our country, our religion, our culture, our language, our history. That is their goals, and that's what OK2A and the Oklahoma GOP is fighting against. So I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you very much. We got out in an hour and 16 minutes, so I'm doing better, folks. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Hey, are we good? Yep, we good? Okay. Like I said.
Where is your story?